I'd like to call the Organizational Services and Performance Monitoring Committee to order. Can I have, do I need, I need the roll call. Yes, thank you.
Good morning. Emily Pachetti, Chair.
Here.
Lauren Welch, Vice
Here.
Chair.
Thank you.
Mayor Gallo.
Here.
Deidre McPherson. And Jeffrey Sleesman.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excellent. So we have a couple things on the agenda this morning. First, we're going to approve the minutes from the May 6th meeting. And I would like to thank Trustee Welch for leading that committee meeting while I was out. I appreciate that. So do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion Welch.
Do I have a second?
Second Gallo.
Thank you. Okay, motion carries, and we're going to move on to two agenda items today, traction results reporting. So this is a presentation of the first quarter 2025 scorecards and customer experience surveys, really important, and then that'll be followed by a quarterly management report.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you all for your patience as we replace the HVAC units on the roof. If you saw any of the cranes, that's what's going on, just FYI. So always a good bit of rehab happening in an older building like this. This morning, I'm just going to tee it up, and then I have a few friends with me this morning. We've got Nick Bigger, who's standing behind me in the blue suit. He is our Senior Director for Customer Experience. We also have a couple of our friends that have flown into Cleveland to join us to report this morning. We've got James Rubin, and we've also got Luke Allison. They will be reporting from the Trans Pro side of the house on the first quarter results. Okay. All right. So, understanding that we normally come to you every 3 months or so for the quarterly performance review, we are going to be reviewing the first quarter of the year results. This is called Traction, if you recall, for those of you that might be new with us today. We are effectively collaborating with TransPro, which is a third-party consultant team, but we're also simultaneously taking on a lot of the work in-house. And that's why you see folks like Nick behind me. He'll also have a couple of good news tidbits to be able to explain how the department is growing as well as we start to take some of the work off of TransPro's hands and really kind of embed it into the management team that we've got here at RTA. The agenda, I'll be very fast on this one. Success outcomes, again, this is just an overview. Organizational scorecard, we'll go through the first quarter. Keep in mind that the first quarter is usually the kind of level setting for the year. We still have 3 quarters to go to reach our goals that are set out before us. And so typically the first quarter has a little lower scoring because we're only looking at a fourth of the data. But either way, it does give us a good indicator of how far or short we have to go. We'll also talk about the customer experience survey results. If you recall, we survey over 1,000 people every quarter in the community. Usually it hovers somewhere between 1,200 and 1,600 individuals, which is very much on par with the market. Beyond just public transit, that's usually what you'll find private companies doing as well on the upper end of the customer satisfaction kind of barometer. Also, we'll talk about the April Community Impact Survey. You should have copies of that at your at the dais. So all of those booklets are what we're talking about here. And then the performance management cadence, so you can remember when the next time we are here to report out to you. Okay, so thinking about the first quarter, we're at a B-. And this is what I meant to be able to kind of level set for the year. There are a couple of things that are going on as far as 2025 that have adjusted a bit for us. And Nick will go into that detail. We're trying to make the determination a little bit more difficult for us. We're trying to challenge ourselves a little bit. And some of our scoring metrics have adjusted just a bit so that we can challenge ourselves for the new year. Customer experience, community impact, employee investment, and financial health are the 4 areas of focus. And you'll see the goal points, which are kind of how many points are assigned to each area of the business, with, of course, our customer experience as a 40. For 2025, quarter 1, we're at 36 points roughly, almost 37 out of customer experience. Community impact, we are nearly at 16. Employee investment, we're hovering just under 20. And financial health, just under 8. So that gives you an idea of kind of how we're doing for the first quarter. We're going to the details of that, but all told, it does level out to around 80 points out of 100, which puts us at a B. Delving a little bit deeper, want you to just kind of level set those same 4 areas, the same goal points, and then the success definitions that you've got. This is where it gives you a little bit more information on what those 4 areas mean. I'll let you go ahead and read that on your own. But a big portion of this as well, we always talk about advocacy. That really plays into the grants administration, the grant award, right? So that financial health, we want to focus on those competitive grants for capital projects. The majority of what you have in your packets are capital projects. So we have to have that funding in order to get those things done. You'll notice that the status on the right-hand side, and I'm at the bottom of the chart here, I'm kind of working my way up. We are just under 3 million. This is because a lot of those budget items, they come in toward the end of the year. So when we're at the first quarter that we're looking at, we're starting out all over again. So you can imagine those numbers will increase pretty rapidly over the next couple of quarters, and usually there's a big bang at the end, depending on what's happening on the federal level as well, as far as grants being able to be pushed through. With all of the changes in Washington, sometimes there's a little bit of slowness, sometimes there's a rapid response, and so we are kind of on the slow end of the year for right now. Going up again, employee investment, we're about 3 points away from goal, and that's on the percentage, and we'll have a little bit more information on that for you. We also have an internal survey that our HR department will go through a little bit later in the presentation toward the end of the morning here to be able to give you information on how people feel about working here at RTA. So it's a 2-pronged approach. We have the external surveys, but we also have the internal to really find out how our customer base is doing. And we are not perfect. We understand that. We know that there's some areas to be improved upon. Paratransit is one of those that we are definitely going through some issues as far as on-time performance and just the rate of requests from our customers. So we understand that, and we'll be able to talk through that as well. That's going to be a pinch point and a pain point for some of us in our customer experience division, and we've already worked on trying to get that collaborative effort going to make that an area of the business that we focus in on right away. Also, you've got your community impact. That's really the perception of how important transit is to the personal piece of that customer and also to the community at large. And then we've also got the customer experience, and that kind of speaks for itself. Again, the Net Promoter Score is how likely are you to recommend this to someone else. And with that, I'm going to head it over to Nick Bigger, who will go into details about the scorecard.
Thank you. Good morning, Sheriff Pachetti, members of the board. My name is Nick Bigger, and I'm the Senior Director of Customer Experience and Performance Management for the RTA. So I'm going to take us through our Q1 performance for 2025. As Ms. Terry just explained, so we do have a balanced scorecard approach. So all of our key metrics roll up to one of 4 main success outcomes. Before we get started, I did want to say a couple of things that we changed going into 2025. So one is the way that we calculate our scores. So the prior model, we had the ability to earn extra credit, if you will. So if you achieved your goal, you could get more goal points than are allocated. So there's a potential that you could get more than 100 points depending on how you perform. We had a lot of conversations about this, and so we opted to cap ourselves. So each metric is only able to achieve the maximum goal points allocated for it. Reason being, we didn't want to create any blind spots, right? So we didn't want to overachieve in one category and underachieve in another, and then be blind to that because the overall score is carrying us higher. So we imposed that limitation on ourselves this year. The other thing we did when we looked at the actual goals themselves, we really pushed ourselves. So when you're looking at customer experience, most of the metrics on the screen right now, our performance is derived directly from our quarterly customer experience surveys. As Ms. Terry said, we do random onboard intercept surveys on a quarterly basis. We do it across all of our modes, and we get just over 400 survey responses by mode. So about 1,600 survey results are coming in on a quarterly basis. We looked at our goals and our performance for 2024, and we pushed ourselves with 5% increases for all of the metrics derived from the surveys. So items where we bested our goal, we based on our performance. Items where we did not hit our goal, we improved our goal. So we're really trying to push ourselves and stretch ourselves in customer experience. And so you can see here, Net Promoter Score. Again, as Ms. Terry said, that's a simple question. How likely are you to recommend writing RTA to a friend or neighbor? You respond to that question on a Likert scale, 1 to 10. Results are broken down into 3 categories. If you respond as a 9 or 10, you're a promoter. 7 to 8, you're neutral or passive. 6 or under, you're a detractor. And you're simply comparing the percentage of promoters, and you subtract away the percentage of detractors. That's your Net Promoter Score. Overall customer satisfaction. And then the rest of the survey responses on the screen here. So the perception of personal safety and security, the perception of on-time performance, and the perception of vehicle cleanliness. We specifically choose these because consistently, perception of safety and security and perception of cleanliness are pain points that our customers identify to us through the surveys. And our customers consistently tell us that on-time performance is the most important thing for us. So we actually capture that both ways. We want to know what our customers think about on-time performance, but we also have our internal data here as well. So we measure that both ways. So customer experience for the first quarter, we came in at just under 37 out of 40 total goal points. Our next success outcome is community impact. So here, as Ms. Terry said, we have a community survey that we do as well. We administer this twice a year. This goes out to the community at large. Of note, there are many people who respond to that survey who don't ride RTA, right? So we're trying to gauge the community as a whole. What value does RTA bring to the region? What value does it bring to you personally? What are your perceptions of pain points, et cetera? So it's just a more nuanced understanding of our system from the community at large. But we're specifically trying to capture what our community, how it relates to their personal relevance, RTA. We're also tracking transit-oriented development. So this is something we added back to our scorecard this year. So we're trying to see how many projects we're bringing to the board for approval on an annual basis. We're looking at our capital dollars. So where are we investing our capital dollars? What's our ratio of private sector investment in major capital projects? And for sustainability, we're looking at our reduction in type 1 and type 2 emissions. So for community impact, we came in at just under 16 out of 25. I will point out that especially in community impact and later when we get to financial health, we have a couple metrics that we track them on a quarterly basis, but it's really an annualized goal. So when we're looking at the number of TOD projects, we're trying to hit 4 in the span of a year, but we're still going to track it on a quarterly basis. Employee investment is our third success outcome. So we track our vacancy fill rate for mission critical positions. We're tracking our internal promotion percentage, our overall agency-wide retention rate, and then our vacancy fill rate for non-bargaining. So we performed pretty well in employee investment for this quarter, earning 19.7 out of 20. And our last success outcome. So we're looking at the dollar amount of competitive capital grants that's coming into the RTA that helps us do all the projects that we do. The second metric here is a new one. So we're looking at the transfer from our revenue stabilization fund. So as our budget stands right now, we are budgeted to transfer roughly $50 million from the revenue stabilization fund. We put in a goal on ourselves to try to cap that at $40 million. So essentially, RTA is knowledgeable that we're going to have to draw into our savings account at the end of the year to balance our budget, and we're trying to limit the impact of doing that. So even though we budgeted at $50 million, we're stretching ourselves to stop that at $40 million. So we're trying to seek a $10 million savings in that regard. And the last metric on here, you guys have seen this before, but this is us transferring for the rail car replacement project. So making sure that we're hitting our $10 million transfer for that project. So again, here you see 7.9 out of 15. Some things like competitive capital grants, we track it quarterly, but it's really an annualized goal. So we'll watch that project progress as we go along. With that, I'll turn it over to James Rubin to go over our customer experience and community impact survey results.
Thanks, Nick. Good morning, RTA Board. It's a pleasure to be before you again, going over the most recent results from your March customer experience survey. Jumping right in, one important change that you'll notice this round of survey reporting is that we're reporting to you wave by wave, so every individual wave, those are in blue here. But you're also looking at an average over 4 quarters. What we were finding, and I think what you were finding as well, and we wanted to respond to concerns that you had, was that these numbers were looking a little volatile. They were jumping up and down, and it was kind of hard to really get the sense of the trend when we saw them going up and down the way they were. So we wanted to sort of do that 4-quarter or 4-wave rolling average to really give you a sense of the trend and the direction that these are going in. So that's what you'll see over the next subsequent slides. Here we're looking at the Net Promoter Score, as Nick described to you what that is. That's the percent of promoters minus the percent of detractors, and this is for fixed route bus. You can see that our most recent wave results, fixed route bus Net Promoter Score came in at a 27, and you can definitely notice that that's down from a 47. That 47, this is why we're doing that 4-wave average. That 47 really looks like an aberration, an exceptionally high number. And one of the things that we find in this business is that there are things that impact customer experience that are not part of what we do as a transit agency, right? There's news articles that people read during the weeks that the surveyor is maybe out there doing their jobs. There are things that they hear, and sometimes those things have an impact on survey results. Sometimes there are projects that are underway, like on the rail side when there were a lot of shutdowns last year, and sometimes those projects end and service is restored, and we see a tremendous amount of positivity in customers. So there is some volatility in these numbers that doesn't necessarily relate directly to customer experience. We want to make sure that we're presenting to you things that you can track over time. So that's what we're looking at here. It's worth noting that the trend on Net Promoter Score for fixed route bus is slightly up, wave over wave, when we look at the past 4. So we'll be monitoring this as we go forward. We know from the survey results, before we get to that, sorry, also overall satisfaction for fixed route bus. You could see from a 77 down to a 68 from the last wave to this wave. So we're looking at a decrease of about 9 percentage points there. And again, wave over wave, somewhat of a slight increase, maybe a slight bit flat when we factor in the most recent results. We know exactly what's driving these results. There we go. And I think if I could go back and start this presentation to you again, I would probably start it with this. Overall, your customers are saying the 3 most important things to them are on-time performance, personal safety and security, and cleanliness. And you're going to find that this is consistent for fixed route bus, for bus rapid transit, and for rail. Rail, it's in a slightly different order. I'll leave you on the edge of your seats in terms of suspense to see what that is when I get to it. I don't think it'll come as a big surprise. So here, looking at these results, you can see that on-time performance is at 19%, safety and security at 16, cleanliness at 13, and drivers at 13 for fixed route bus. You could see that on-time performance is by far the most important attribute to customers, but not that much more than personal safety and security here. Those are 1 and 2, cleanliness and drivers coming in 3rd and 4th. So it's really on-time performance and personal security that's driving these dramatic changes in on a Net Promoter Score and overall satisfaction from wave to wave. Bus rapid transit doesn't look that different than fixed route. But there you go. I guess I'm not clicking hard enough. You could see for bus rapid transit, we go from a 38. Again, we had a particularly high Net Promoter Score in the last wave down to a 24 this time for Net Promoter Score. For overall satisfaction, it's a 74 down to a 70. Again, noting that there is, when you average out over these 4 waves, a slight increase on a wave-to-wave basis. So that is what we want to look at. Again, we don't want to dive too much into each individual wave results. We want to see the trend, and we want to see that trend moving upward. Same considerations here for bus rapid transit folks. On-time performance, safety and security, both of those tying at 1 and 2, and right behind them, cleanliness. So, there's the formula. There's the secret sauce to improving customer experience on bus rapid transit. Improve on-time performance, personal security, and cleanliness from the perception of your customers, and overall satisfaction and Net Promoter Score is going to go up here. Just one thing to note is that we're getting an NPS score this wave of 24 for bus rapid transit and a 27 for fixed route bus. So 70 overall satisfaction for bus rapid transit and a 68 overall satisfaction for fixed route bus. Those are all pretty close to each other. And I think what we'd all like to see is just better bus rapid transit results, right? We want to see that as being like the really great sort of core bus service. We should have more customer experience, more positive results on that line or those lines. And they're pretty close to each other here. So that's something we're definitely going to be monitoring carefully over the next few waves to see if we could get BRT up a little bit higher than fixed route bus. Moving into rail. You could see the most recent Net Promoter Score results in rail is a 24. This is actually a 3-wave increase, right? So we went from a 12 to a 19 to a 24. These aren't huge jumps, but these are reasonable jumps. 5-point jumps in Net Promoter Score from wave to wave, exactly what we like to see. And we see a somewhat corresponding result, 68-60 up to a 65 now for overall satisfaction from rail customers. Here's where the order switches. So here we see personal safety and security up on top, on-time performance second, and cleanliness third. So for rail customers, their biggest attribute, their most concern is personal safety and security, more important to them than on-time performance. This is, again, different from the bus customers where these two were flipped around. And we get into paratransit, where we don't see a tremendous amount of movement altogether. 65 Net Promoter Score to a 66 Net Promoter Score from last wave to this wave. And overall satisfaction actually ticked up 3 percentage points from an 86 to an 89. I want to point something out from on this slide for paratransit customers. You can see that personal safety and security is number 1 and drivers are number 2. Those are very close to each other in terms of importance. And let's remind ourselves, personal safety and security is a different concern for paratransit customers. It's not the same as, you know, a woman on the bus worried about her personal security. It's a different kind of safety concern, but it's legit. But look at how those two are the two most important here, followed by on-time performance, travel time, and cleanliness. Not to say that those are not important to paratransit customers. They absolutely are. But they're not as important. In fact, they're half as important. Personal security and safety and drivers are twice as important to paratransit customers as is on-time performance and travel time, which explains to some degree why we're seeing a slight increase in or flat Net Promoter Score and overall satisfaction when we have some internal data to show that on-time performance from the agency's perspective in paratransit has slipped a little bit. And we know from the recent customer results that paratransit customers' perceptions of on-time performance has also slipped a little bit. Right? So we're monitoring those really closely. But the reason, and this is a perfect illustration of how key driver analysis works, the reason that we're not seeing that have as big an impact in overall satisfaction is it's not one of those top two, right? Were we to see a substantial decrease in paratransit customers' perceptions of their personal security and safety, I would very much expect to see that Net Promoter Score and overall satisfaction numbers start to decrease pretty dramatically. So we summarize this for the agency. I want to remind the board that the agency is about 70 to 71% fixed route bus. So it will come as no surprise that what you're really looking at here when we summarize things for the agency is really the dramatic trend in fixed route bus, and all the other stuff is kind of sprinkled in. In fact, paratransit, because it's such a small percentage of overall trips, really doesn't really show up well in this chart. But just to keep us honest and make sure we have an agency NPN and an agency satisfaction, and as we need those for the scorecard, we have a 27 NPS and a 68 overall satisfaction going on the wave. We have another round of survey results to go over, super high-level stuff here. This is the community survey. I'll remind everyone that this is the survey that goes out not to RTA customers, but to members of the community. So as you'll see in this chart, if you look at the blue line at the bottom, those are the percent of the respondents who say that they're regular or that they use RTA services. You could see that that's down at about 20. That's consistent. We'd like to see that consistent. We don't want to see that change because that shouldn't change, right? That should be a random sample of the community. What we do see changing here, and this is a really good piece of news here, is that orange line ticking up from the last time we did this survey to this time, from a 59% to a 68%. That line represents respondents to the community survey who said that RTA brings them value personally. So pretty nice improvement there, right? Almost a 9 percentage point improvement in the percentage of folks who live in the Cleveland metro area who recognize that the transit service brings value to them, right? Whether they're using it or not, right? They may have family members who are using it, friends, colleagues, people they work with. They may think that they might need to use it in the future. They may understand that their personal lives are made better by the fact that transit exists, right? Less traffic, less congestion, better air. All of those things are getting reflected in the fact that the community's perception of the value that RTA brings personally has improved. Still relatively high, 90, 80, 89, 92, that's really unchanged when we consider margin of error. Still 9 out of 10 members of the community find value in the community. We're not surprised at that, but good to see that personal value improving. We know what folks are citing in terms of the key drivers of that value. These results, at least the employment impact, doesn't come as a big surprise. We typically see this on these kinds of surveys. In other words, the community members find the biggest value in the fact that the transit service brings access to employment, gets people to jobs, and brings workers to jobs. That's the employment impact you see at 25%. Access to people who with special mobility needs or low-income families at 22, kind of right behind that. These kind of all come in at very, very close, almost a tie for the 4. Access to medical, recreation, and education. And affordability. And I think it's interesting, you know, if you see that affordability at 21, there's probably some play here in these results on needs of low-income families and affordability. So I would almost say those two categories are kind of playing off each other. If we were to combine them, and I'm not saying we're going to combine them, but you know, affordability and low-income needs are getting close to each other. You might find that even bumps the idea that the transit provides mobility for low-income families becomes even more important to the community. So keep that in mind. That concludes my presentation on community and customer survey results.
So we're just going to close out our presentation with just a high-level picture of where we are in our annual cadence for performance management. So highlighted here in May, we're doing our board report for the first quarter performance. Just for awareness, so this afternoon we have an internal traction meeting. That is where we'll do a deep dive into our performance and our results and have strategy conversations about how we might, move the needle and improve it. So we always try to marry our internal meeting with our board report on the same day. Also, I just want to say before I leave the podium here, just as an announcement, so just announced it internally yesterday, but I've made 2 hires for the customer experience and performance management team. They're not here today, but we'll formally introduce them at the next board meeting. But just so you're aware, Kim Wright is going to be the manager of customer experience. So Kim has been with RTA for almost 25 years. She's been a bus operator, a training instructor, and she's currently a transportation manager at Paratransit. Zane Patterson is going to be a project and performance leader. So Zane's been here for just under 4 years. He's been a business analyst in our public transit development program, currently serves as an ITS specialist, working up in the IT department. And a little fun fact about Zane, so Zane is what you might call a transit evangelist. So he's transit dependent. He's traveled across the world and ridden on public transit in 30 different countries worldwide. So very passionate about transit and customer experience. So just very excited to announce that to you guys, and we'll formally introduce them next time. And with that, we'll take any questions.
Thank you. Do I have any questions from my fellow committee members or the board?
One question. First of all, I'm glad to see the change in the inclusion of TOD as a goal. I'm curious just to how that gets tracked, given the long gestation period for development. So when we say, I think someone said 4, we talking about 4 new, or do we have benchmarks in the project that tell us we're on track?
That's a terrific question. So we had a lot of internal debate about that. So we knew we wanted it on the scorecard, and we said, how do we actually capture it? And so what we landed on was 4 new projects where we have a proposed project with a development partner that we bring to the board and get approval from the board to move forward. So exactly like you were talking about, we knew that there's a long lead time. We were trying to figure out how we can capture some of the ROI, but in an annual performance management cadence, it's kind of hard to do that. So that's how we landed on the definition.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have just a few things. Okay, so I guess could you speak maybe just broadly to how we think about translating what we see in our performance metrics to action internally? I think that would help.
Yeah.
Us all understand how the process works.
Absolutely. Thanks. So I'll just go back here so I can pull up the slide while I'm talking to it. But specifically, I'm going to pull up the customer experience slide. So we talked about our main pain points, right, that we're knowledgeable about. So in Traction and how we administer it, so we have these quarterly meetings internally, that I was talking about earlier, where we talk about, what are our results, what's our strategy. We have also monthly check-ins. So these are our tactics meetings. So in Traction, we have our scorecards, which are the most important things, what matters to us, what do we want to deliver on. And from that, we develop tactics. So tactics are like an annualized strategy with a core group of leaders internal to RTA. And they're trying to work on how to move the needle, right? And so when you see things like the perception of safety and security or the perception of cleanliness, so the way that those translate into action, both of those things have a tactic group with cross-departmental owners, right? So our perception of cleanliness, our director of rail, and our central facilities manager work on that to come up with initiatives to try to improve the perception. And the way that it comes to fruition is things like changing the seats on the rail cars, right? So moving from cloth to vinyl, creating the midday cleaning process up at Windermere. Those are the ways that we're trying to implement the strategy. On the perception of safety and security, our transit police team under Chief Jones, they're working very hard on that. So they've implemented a few different strategies. Last year, we kind of started it out, kind of getting more of a presence out at stations. This year, we took it to the next level. So we actually have uniformed police officers riding on base blocks and service to, really, I wrote it the other day and saw them on there, and it's just that. It's going to the perception, right? So it's actually not, an unsafe environment, but when you board a train or a vehicle and you see a uniformed police officer, it just improves your perception of control and feeling safe. And so that's kind of how we implement the strategy.
Yeah. No, those are great examples. Thank you.
And then I'll just piggyback. So I think what Nick said is absolutely correct. Just to be able to kind of level set for some of the newer members, such as yourself, if we go back almost 4 years now, if I say, when Traction really wasn't Traction yet. It was a bunch of scorecards that we were creating through our relationship with TransPro. When I first arrived here in late 2019, we were halfway through our strategic plan. We hadn't adopted it yet, but it was in the throes of being kind of, put a bow on it. And so it was, and it is and was very lengthy and very robust. And that's as it should be with any decade-long strategic plan. But as a planner myself, I understand that those long strategic plans are ineffective and they get put on a shelf if we don't have a shorter-term plan process to be able to achieve those goals. And that really was the birth of our Traction program. So in my mind, and I think our team has adopted that mindset, and also the board, we look at this as a means to an end to be able to achieve what's already laid out in our long-term strategic plan, which goes from 2020 essentially to 2030. And so embarking upon that kind of mid-year reset to make sure that we have everything going, and we're going to continue to do that with the board probably with over the next 8-9 months or so. This is really our checklist to make sure that the things that we said we were going to set out to do are actually working and are getting done. And a good example of that is the rail car, right, as one of the largest capital projects we have. And then all of the other things that go into the customer experience, it was our way of being able to elevate it. So as Nick said, there's a lot of work that goes behind it to make sure that the numbers aren't just numbers that we present to you, but there's a lot of smaller projects that kind of make up the soup.
This is really important, and I could go on with many questions, but I know we have a lot to get to. So thank you very much for the presentation. And I think with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I think I've got.
Did you
move? I'll second. Yeah.
I've got one more.
There was a second,
I've got one,
second presentation.
I've got one more presentation in your
Oh,
committee.
I'm sorry.
It's
So
okay.
This is the management report. I thought
Right.
they combined.
Yep,
Okay,
no problem.
my apologies.
No problem. This is much shorter.
We are not adjourning. Go ahead, and my apologies.
No problem. We got a lot on the agenda today, so understand. I will be quick though with this one because you've got a document that is sitting with you, and this is really more than I could ever say. This is the quarterly management report. So really good, I think, segue though. You heard about the customer experience part, and you heard about more of the tactics that go into our operations during the first presentation. This is also a culmination of that effort, but it is a little bit more focused on the financial side of the business. So it's our quarterly management report. Just to be able to kind of take you through that at a really quick clip, you've got the letter from me in the beginning, which really gives you a bird's eye view of a lot of the activities that go into it. So not just the finances, but also some of the major capital project updates, some of the advocacy, programming, and activities that we've got. So it really gives you just a snapshot of everything that we're doing on a quarterly basis, and then you've got more of the deep dive. And our traction program is actually now included in this document, which is a great addition for us because it's made the book. This book was kind of the Bible, so to speak, for a lot of what we do. And being able to have the transition from traction to this report really is a great process to make sure that everything is all in one document. So my purpose today is to really give you a super high level snapshot of where we are for the first quarter on the financial side, and that's why we talk about the general fund. So being able to condense this into a couple slides, I appreciate the finance folks who really prepare a lot of this information. But again, the detail is in the book. But your total revenues for the quarter hover just under $83 million. That is almost 7% higher than budget. And the detail behind that are passenger fares, of course, which are timing of receipts and a lot of our kind of invoicing that comes through, 12.3% lower. I will say that we have had an uptick, however, in our usage of mobile device fare payment. That has definitely been up, which really shows an increasing dependency on the mobile ticketing apps that are out there, and we're going to be able to increasingly depend on that to make sure that we can make things easier for our customers, including fare capping, like we mentioned a couple months ago, that we're going to continue to come to you with as we refine that process so that we have a more fair and less assumptive way of assuming that our customers can pay for ride by ride by ride. So that being said, we've got almost an uptick of 12%, just as information on the digital usage for our apps as far as paying. So that we always have fluctuations that come into our ridership on a quarterly basis. Sales and use tax is 3.2% higher. Again, there's additional detail as to where that comes from in your books. And the reimbursed expenditures, about $5.5 million, and that's where you get into the refunds for fuel and preventative maintenance and labor and other receipts that come through on the operational side. Operating expenses is around 4% lower than budget. Personnel costs, we're definitely trying to rein that in as we go into the 2025 year to really understand how we can scale back, whether it's through hiring or whether it's through making sure that overtime is not excessive. These are areas of the business that we can start to really kind of pull back to make sure that we're being and continuing to be good financial stewards of the public dollars. Fuel hedging, we always talk about that. That's also come in $1 million lower than budget. And then purchase transportation has come in 1.1 million lower. However, that is due to timing, so we do not expect that to remain lower. I will also say, just as anecdotal, the operations side of me likes to look at the ridership alongside a lot of these things. Our ridership for paratransit has gone up 8%, nearly 8% in Q1 of 2025. So this shows an increased demand with the stable resources that we have within paratransit. So that's why you see the request for additional vehicles. We're trying to get to 100 vehicles on the paratransit side rather than the 80 that we're at right now. Trying to figure out ways that we can get additional bodies in there, additional folks to be able to drive those vehicles so that we can maintain on-time performance. So that has been something we've noticed, the fluctuation over time. Also, wanted to hit on and touch on the transfers. We also want to make sure that you have the confidence in us to maintain that rolling stock reserve. We have, I want to say, Raj, it's just under 5 million. It's about 4.98 or something like that.
4.95 as of the end of the quarter. We've rounded it up because I like round numbers. It is 5 million as of today.
Want to make sure you have the accurate number. So we have continued to put that money into the pot to make sure that we can reach our eventual goal for the rail replacement project. And again, that stands at 450 million right now. And we're trying our best to be able to make sure it stays at that 450 million for the total project cost. Also, our bond retirement, nearly 2.5 million, and then remaining funds will be transferred throughout the year. You'll hear that update as I come in front of you on a quarterly basis. Also, we like to round out the presentation by giving you a visual snapshot by bar chart of where our money has gone into what bucket and what area. So you can see quite easily here by the colors throughout the years. The majority of our funding has gone into that rail replacement, but there's also key projects that are needed to be done in order to prepare for that. Facilities improvement is always something that's important. And again, bus replacement program is really something that's ingrained in us over time, and that is pretty status quo within the model of the business. I believe that will stop my presentation now so we can get into more detail, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have it, either here or offline.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I believe now we are ready to adjourn. Okay, I will ask for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Good morning. We're going to call to order the Board of Trustees meeting. I have a roll call, please.
Mayor Paul Kumar, Ms. Lauren Welch,
Present.
Anastasia Elder, Mayor Marie Gallo,
Here.
Mr. Stephen Love, Reverend Charles Lucas, Ms. Deidre McPherson, Ms. Emily Pachetti,
Here.
Mr. Jeffrey Sleesman,
Here.
Mayor David Weiss.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you so much for that. Thankful for a quorum. If we can read the certification, that would be great. Thank you.
Chairman, I first advise the notice of this meeting has been posted more than 24 hours in advance of the meeting, and that all usual notifications have been given the news media and other interested persons, and that all requirements of the Ohio Revised Codes and rules and bylaws of this board regarding notice of meeting have been complied with.
Thank you so much for that certification. We're now going to move into the approval of the minutes for April 15th, 2025 board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mayor Weiss.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those meeting minutes are now approved. We'll now go into public comment. We'll first start with any in-person comments, and if you could state your name and your city of residence when you do your public comment, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Hinkle. I'm a longtime Cleveland resident and RTA commuter. My subject is about bus stop sign replacement. The first bus stop sign needs to be replaced is located at East 55th Street and St. Clair Avenue, westbound on number 1 St. Clair. The bus stop sign is bent right in. We can't hardly see it or anything. And there's often disputes with the commuters and the coach operator. Well, there's no stop there. And the sign, I don't know how long it's been bent right there, but it needs to be replaced for the stop signs more visible seen. The second one is located on Ridge Road and Vandalia Avenue, northbound on number 45. The bus stop sign is just too small to see. The only way you can identify the bus stop is by a trash bin or the McDonald's right across the street. This way, the sign will be a little more visible, so there won't be no pass or no dispute with the commuters or the bus drivers. That's all I really want to say.
May I ask, can you repeat the location of the second one?
Okay. Ridge Road going northbound in Vandalia Avenue at Ajax to Ridge Park Square.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those comments. Any other public comments? Yes. If you could step to the podium, please, for the mic. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much.
Okay. Good morning.
Good
My
morning.
name is Susan Ott, and I'm a longtime paratransit rider. My comment is that paratransit does have some issues, but I think far more important than any individual customer complaints about paratransit is its very existence. Because without paratransit, many people who ride it would truly not be able to get to work or school or the grocery store or see their friends or do a lot of things that they take for granted at this point. And I truly believe that the federal government is intending on making very severe financial cuts to paratransit and to RTA in general, and that would devastate the lives of people who rely on paratransit. So above and beyond anything that I might have to complain about paratransit, I think its very existence is essential. Could you please try harder to tell us what we can do to keep it functioning as well as it is functioning now? Because I think that part has been severely lacking. And as far as you asking paratransit riders whether they would recommend paratransit to other people, we're not in the same position you folks are in. Because truly, paratransit is our cars. It's not a matter of having a choice. It's a matter of either being able to do a particular thing or not. And paratransit is the thing that makes that difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ott. Yes.
How many people was your paratransit survey based on, and how many total paratransit riders do you have? I'm sorry.
No, thank you for that question. Did you want to take that, Ms. Burnsong-Terry?
Sure. I can't see quite behind, excuse me, I'm sorry. I can't see quite behind the poll, but if we've got Transpro still here, if not, we can provide that information at the next meeting. I don't want to get the numbers wrong, but just as information, the surveys are usually range between 1,200 and 1,600 customers. The paratransit breakdown is a little less, but we can provide that information and have that information ready for you as well.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Ms. Terry is just over 400.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Just over 400 for about a quarter of our surveys. Okay. Total will fluctuate month to month, but we have an average of that. I'm going to actually ask Nick Davidson, who's in the back, to make sure that we follow back up with you after the meeting. Thank you. Appreciate it. And we definitely, if I can just offer this, the federal support for our programs is definitely a delicate situation, to say the least. And a lot of our partners throughout the state and different organizations. We've got about 14 or 15 public transit agencies that are throughout Ohio. We are the largest, and so you have the largest vote and the largest voice through us. Later on in the presentation, if you have the opportunity to stick around, I'll actually be presenting on some of the testimony that we provided in Columbus, and we routinely do that, and we also do that in Washington, D.C., so we definitely are advocating on your behalf, but if there are additional ways to be able to write letters and that kind of thing, we'll be able to give that information to you as well. So thank you. We appreciate your support of us.
Okay. 2 months ago, I was here, and first of all, RTA is my main way of transportation. Now, I presented myself as being a nostalgic person. I said that so on some routes I hold a cardboard, so I don't got to look at the computers and stuff like that. And I also mentioned that cash is my favorite way of payment. And I also asked that the park and rides should be a two-way afternoon service. So with all those things I mentioned 2 months ago, I forgot to mention my name at that presentation, so now I'm going to present my name. My name is Stephen Katanovic, and I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. So once again, my name is Stephen Katanovic, and I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm a nostalgic RTA customer. I go by past things. I'm not always thrilled with the 21st century. There's a lot of problems, so it's good I made that speech and told you my mind. So see you.
Thank you so much for those comments. Any additional and personal comments? Yes.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This is Lou. I'm not any shorter, thinner, or prettier. However, I'm here to make a comment on behalf of another advocate. He's also a long-time paratransit rider. I'm only accompany people on paratransit. Larry Rodriguez. You know that paratransit is a smaller vehicle than the fixed route or even rapid. So in smaller space, you have a good job to do for lots of people having mobility issue and any other kind of health issue you cannot even imagine. In the smaller space, there's one important issue. It's about the air quality. Sometimes paratransit riders may have neurological issues as well. So they can have a sensory issue like high noise, sharp noise, impromptu noise, and even smell. We do have some drivers, they want to be courteous, so they put on a little bit too much fragrances. And some of them, I know they use probably like an air cleaner, but we know the spraying kind is actually containing the chemicals which may trigger people's asthma and some other issues, health issues as well. These things you do not see in the survey. This is the reason why right now it's a loose part of the comments. Noble has been conducted a paratransit survey and focus group twice. And hopefully next month you will see the presentation. I would like to remind people that lots of the questions in our existing surveys, they are made from administrative point of view. So you talk about perceptive, but why not hear the actual issues from the actual people experience these actual situations? That would actually help GCRTA to improve the service better. Not only we can be proud of ourselves, and we can go to DC, we can go to Columbus to get our funding. Thank you.
Always grateful for you and Mr. Rodriguez for your advocacy. Thank you for those comments today.
Thank you. John Rice I live in the city of Lakewood, but I'm here on behalf of Cuyahoga County Veteran Service Commission. I am the Executive Director and CEO of the County Veteran Service Commission, and I'm here about two issues that I'd like to ask the board for some assistance on. One, I would like to announce that in November, December this year, we're going to be opening our new headquarters location on Chester Avenue, the old Recovery Resource Building. The closest bus stop is around the corner on the Health Line, and we would like some assistance on getting one that stops right out in front of the Veteran Service Commission, if at all possible. Additionally to that, I'm here to request some either some assistance or some further discussion on to a topic that we've addressed a couple times over the years with various leadership roles here at the Greater Cleveland RTA, and that is Veterans Ride Free program. There are communities and RTA systems around the country that have programs where veterans just get on the bus and that's it. Their service to their country was enough to pay for their ridership on a public transit, and we're looking for an opportunity to create something like that, or if nothing else, a discount program that is significant. We're well aware of discount programs for students at our public universities and elsewhere, and we're wondering if we can work on a program to establish something similar for our veteran population. You do represent the highest veteran population on a county basis in the state of Ohio, the 25th largest in the country. So I think it would be great if Cleveland could step up and show that way. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rice, for those comments. Congratulations on the opening of the new facility. It's fantastic to see that, and we appreciate the vets for their service. Did you have any comments that you wanted to add to that?
I just wanted to say congratulations again. Building is not an easy task, so we appreciate you for that. And thank you for coming to mention your comments. I'm going to ask, actually, Natoya, if you could just follow up with Mr. Rice. Did I get that right? Okay, after the meeting or whenever he has to head out, so we can get your information formally. I will say that just as information, we've had several ride-free days, and I do the air quote thing because somebody always pays for it. But that might be something to think about, even if it's in a pilot kind of thing, to be able to think about who might underwrite that cost. I'm not sure if you've had conversations out in the community, but that's something we can always evaluate. For us to take on the cost might be a little tough financially, but there always are people that can do it. I'm going to actually ask if I can talk with you, and we can continue because we can probably talk all day. I can feel it. And we also do have a veterans employee resource group, just as information for you. So it might be a good idea to connect Mr. Rice with that group, Natoya, when you're talking. Dr. Walker Minor, I'm calling her Natoya, but she is our deputy for external affairs. So that might be a really good connection. I'm sure that we've worked with your group at some point, but we would be happy to talk with you further. Thank you.
Any additional in-person comments? Are there any comments for over the phone?
We do have one caller. Caller, please go ahead.
Eric Stewart, Cleveland. At the back end of this, I have a question for Board of Trustees Weiss from Shaker Heights, India Cherry, Nick Bigger, and the guy that was talking with Nick Bigger. But starting with this, the number 440-276-4600 is the number I'm calling. It is still not maintaining me or anybody else that calls in for the entirety of the meeting, whether I'm speaking or not. It should. You do not want people in public to leave after they've spoken, and they can stand there and listen, and anybody that calls on the phone should be able to listen for the whole time, too. Fix this problem. In reference to my entries of my public comments through the phone or through the web form, I want you to go back at least starting from last month, 9 back after that, and correct everything that you have put in there that you claimed that I said and replace it with what I actually said or actually wrote. That is a conveying of the truth if you do that. And what you have done is repeatedly misrepresented it and misconstrued comments that I made so that if somebody that was not a participant in this reads it, they would not get the true accurate assessment of facts of what was said and why it was said. Correct that. And please post my entire statement that I put in the web form. In reference to being you, India Terry, if you want to be a good steward of public finances, then every time you give a percentage, give the exact number that the percentage is based on. In reference to you, Nick Bigger, if you actually did get 89% of the public to say that RTA has a value, how many people, the exact number, did you talk to? And then this is the most important thing to me as it applies to an individual in Ward 1, Mayor Weiss. I know you know this. East 177th and Invermere is 1 block from Ingleside. East 173rd and Invermere is 1 block from Avalon. Barlett and East 100.
Thank you. I believe that's time.
One block from Scottsdale.
I believe that's time.
Promote the 15A suggestion, Mayor Shaker Height.
Thank you for those comments. I believe that's time. Do we have any additional comments over the phone?
That was our only caller.
Any web form comments?
Samir Davis from Cleveland comments, you're dead wrong from letting puke and other surly bodily waste sit on the red line as long as it was. I got on the train downtown to Fairfax. The puke was there before I got on, and it was there after. Definitely, at the very least, could have someone get it at Tower City to clean it up. The next one is from Eric Stewart from Cleveland. The methods that you use to assess your scorecards lead to poorly assessed conclusions. The questions posed to the public should be better detailed. There should be no percentages given without giving the numbers that the percentages are based on. All web form entries from the public should be posted verbatim from the entry. It is an act of deception to summarize a public comment when the opportunity to be exact is available. Conveying of exact language from the public gives the opportunity for anyone who wants to read what happens to see the accurate assessment of the facts. My comments have been intentionally misconstrued and as a consequence been offered as misrepresentations of the truth by RTA. Make the suggestions for the 15A, 15, 50, 48A, and 48 available for the public ridership to make a decision on what best suits their transit needs and wants. Stop using imaginary and deception in the place of substance of good quality work to increase your taxpayer funding employment pay. RTA has a responsibility to the social economic well-being of public throughout the implementation of public transit.
Thank you for those comments. Taking all of that under advisement continuously.
Two more.
Two more? Okay, thank you.
John Reese from Lakewood, Veterans Issue and the RTA. Then Isaac Sheminsky Augusto, resident of Cleveland. I recently had the unfortunate experience of sharing the green line with a senior citizen who needed to be on the blue line but didn't understand which line went where when they got on at Shaker Square. This is not the this is not the first time I have encountered people at Shaker Square who were confused about where the different lines went. IT would be helpful if Shaker Square could get a couple of system maps that are found in the Rapid Station.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to make sure I'm not missing your last name, Mr. Rice. Is it Reese or Rice? Okay, thank you so much. We just want to make sure we note that. Okay, that concludes our public comments for, do we have one more in person? Okay, sir, yes. Welcome, Mr. Townsend.
Hello. This is my first board meeting with RTA, so I'm a little bit afraid to talk in front of folks. But I have filed several complaints with RTA's paratransit services, and I have been a long-time rider of paratransit since it has its neighborhood services. And I don't understand why the vehicles that they purchase for paratransit cannot be made wider for folks with extra large wheelchairs. I've had some issues with vehicles coming to my residence, which is in Parma, Ohio, that are smaller, and I have a PCA and an extra large wheelchair. This has been going on since April 8th of this year. The complaints are under my ID number. If you want my ID number, I will give it to all of you. The ID number is 10493. So those complaints are there if you would like to read them. You know, and this is ridiculous. It's in my profile for me and my PCA We both have power wheelchairs, and they're extra large. Why can't, it's in the notes, so why can't the drivers take a minute, read the notes, and the dispatchers read the notes? Why is this a continual problem?
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Yes, Reverend Lucas.
First of all, I'm so glad to see the number of people here who regularly fair transit. And I understand very well, my brother, what you're talking about, because I'm in a large wheelchair myself. As you know, we are phasing out these smaller vans because we realized that they were too small for many of us who are in the larger chair, and if there was somebody else in the smaller ones, there was just no room, or you had to almost sit next to the driver. And so we've been working on that, and I think you heard the CEO talk about, we've been working very hard with the new vans to come in, that they'll have better shock situations. In fact, we sent a whole group back because we realized that the Cleveland streets are very rough. So that's a priority. And the number of vans that are coming in, we're just trying to get enough drivers. In fact, I was kidding the driver the other day. I said, "Do you want me to drive?" Because I know there's not enough drivers around here today. So we are listening to you very carefully, and hopefully, when the new set comes in, we'll be able to totally phase out. Where's the directors here? We'll tell you that we'll be able to totally phase out that smaller van.
It is the subcontractors that you guys use. We kind of would wish you guys would go back to using the regular drivers for paratransit. We understand, I understand it costs money, but our drivers somewhat know us best. The regular drivers know us best because a lot of the contractors don't understand, and a lot of their vehicles are smaller.
I want you to also know that we're required to have subcontractors. In order for us to get the contract that we have, we're required. We also, if you notice, there's been a change this year, these last 2 years, some of the subs, because we got rid of a couple of the companies that had the kind of complaints that you're talking about. So it's in progress. And I want you to know that I'm not being an apologist. I'm being a positive force because I very much depend on paratransit. It's been a joy to me as a paraplegic to be able to get out of my house and get to the places I need to get to, and not have to depend on the fixed ride that you can't always get to.
Right.
So it's in progress, and I want you to know again, I'm a defender because we're working on it hard.
Okay. But my next question is to the application process. Why is it 7 pages long? If you have a permanent disability, the disability ain't going nowhere. Why is that process so long? Because I remember it being a shorter process.
If I could pop in for just a minute. Nick, if you're behind there, I believe you are, there's a lot of people. If you could give a 30-second review, because I remember going through that process with you a couple years ago, and I will say it was quite lengthy in the beginning. I think even it's been truncated even since then. So to your point, sir, I don't want to say the wrong number, but it was even more than 7. It was maybe double or triple that. So Nick, if you could kind of speak to that for a moment, and we do appreciate your comments.
Yes. Good morning. This is Nick Davidson, Director of Paratransit. Our application several years ago was about 19 pages. We've reduced that to 7.5. Good morning, sir.
Nick, if you would come over to the microphone here, please.
And while Nick is taking the podium, I will say if you have multiple questions, feel free to advise us of that even after the meeting, so that we can continue through the program if there are multiple things that take more than 2 or 3 minutes at the behest of our vice chair here, so that we can not run out of time to get the items approved that we have on the dais, but we do want to make sure that we hear from you as well. Nick?
Good morning. I'm Nick Davidson, Director of Paratransit. Wanted to address several of those items. The first is our application. Several years ago, it was about 19 pages. We worked to reduce that and make it streamlined, so it is about 7 pages. There is a lot of necessary information in that document to help us determine eligibility. Industry standard practice is to renew certification every 3 to 5 years. Ours is set at 3. We reviewed that and evaluated that process along with our internal audit team. And when we looked at that, 3 years is a good number for us. And it is important to have a touch point with our customers periodically, even with a permanent disability, to continue that. We are working with our subcontractors or our contractors to work on service consistency and making sure that the training and service that we deliver with our customers is on par with our service internally. As Reverend Lucas had mentioned, we're working through the vehicles, and we've made some changes over the last several years to improve the vehicle, the ride quality, the space, and the room and convenience for the customers to make it standard across the board. Is there any other questions I can answer?
No, we just have one more public comment, and just in case, could you stay up for just a moment, just in case?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is Zora Wilson.
Yes.
I'm going to speak on good and bad things, but the good things, there are some dispatchers that are very good, like Mr. Tony and Mr. Derek. In my building, I stay in Palmer. I think genuinely we all love those two schedulers, but in any business, people have to understand there are good and bad things. And I don't think people genuinely understand that. Like, I hate paperwork. I think everybody hates paperwork, but I've worked in offices and I used to be a driver as well, so I understand that. But I don't think public and non-public people understand that, and it makes you very frustrated. That's what people need to understand. If they can understand that, and maybe I don't know what you can do about that, if you can find some way to make some people understand that. And it's very frustrating when people cannot understand that. And when you have a disability on top of that, that's even more frustrating. So, and then I have 5 children, so I'm a mom, so it's easier probably for me to understand that. Thank you very much. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good day as well. Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Are there any additional?
Okay. Hi. My name is Dan Gender. I ride the paratransit, obviously. But I have an issue with the registration also. Why can't what happens is the day that the card is ready is the day that they take you out of the scheduling. And we have to wait for the paper to come before we can schedule. That's not right. I got a suggestion that you know how you get the calls from the reminder calls? Why can't you just make a reminder call, say that your card is ready, please make arrangements to come down and get it? Because this time I did it, the paper came like 4 days after I got it. Mm-hmm. This doesn't make sense to me. I think that's about it. I'm just making a suggestion for you.
Yeah, thank you for that recommendation. I think paratransit riders know best. And again, I believe GM Birdsong Terry mentioned if some of you can stick around to speak with Mr. Davidson afterwards, that would be really helpful for us if you could do that.
We will evaluate the card process.
Okay.
It is still important to have a card and renew it periodically. We have had issues in the past with people riding years after the card had expired. So we had locked that down, but we'll evaluate that and see if we can't make it better.
Thank you for that. Are there any additional public comments? I just want to thank everyone for their public comments today. It is vital to how we elevate transit in this region, so appreciate those comments. I believe that concludes the public comment portion for today. We'll move on. I do not have any reports from Mayor Paul Kumar, who is our president. Is there any other reports from any other committees that need to be reported out today? Okay. Any ad hoc committees? Okay. With that, we will move on to Ida Ford Marshall, that's missing there, for the introduction of new employees and announcement of promotions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning, Vice Chair Welch.
Good morning.
General Manager, CEO, India Birdsong Terry, and Board of Trustees. I'm going by Ida Marshall. I'm owning it now. I'm ready. It's Ida Marshall. So I'm happy to talk about 21 new folks that are joining the new RTA, One RTA family. And we're going to start off with the operators, of course, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. Okay. Okay. Uh-oh. Let me try it again. It's a little delayed. That's okay. There we are. It's a little delay. All right, we're going to start off with Deron Wilson, Stephanie Bowie, Kismet Vincent, Raul Fisher, Mohammed Osman, Marquita Riddle, Aaron Walker, and Bianca Williams. Moving forward. There you are. Dantia Sanders, Kendrick Johnson, Daniel Bromier, Marcia Alexander, Craig Johnson, Richard Horton, Jason Wakefield, and Richard Oliver. Finally, closing out the operators is Susie Winardi, Eric Hume, now Construction Engineer 2, Richard Dreninsky, Body Mechanic at Rail, Anthony Settles, Laborer, and Prashad Aberton Kuntz, Laborer. We're going to celebrate 3 individuals who are doing well in their jobs and now being promoted. We have Sias Toe, is now the HVAC mechanic, Timothy Weatherby, equipment maintainer, also Justin Albright, equipment maintainer. And that concludes our announcement of new hires for May and promotions.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, now we will go into the introduction of the resolutions. Resolution 2025-53. Oh, well, are we switching things around?
Happy to do it.
You, okay. Okay.
2025-53, authorizing contract number 2025-032 with Lake Erie Electric of Ohio Incorporated for the purchase of fiber optic cable in an amount not to exceed $224,625. RTA Development Fund, Engineering and Project Development, Department budget.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This carries. And as always, I want to remind everyone that these are items that have come before committee reports. So this is not the first go-round. And so these are just items that are coming to the full board for approval.
If I can piggyback on that for a moment, just want to add one clarification for the record. Although that is the case with most items, we did go through, there is a memo, just to bring to your attention for board members, there's a memo that's before the first fiber optic cable resolution, so just before the 2025-53. There is a list of resolutions that did not come before the committee. That is due to procurement guidelines and also in-house sort of historical purposes. We have certain thresholds for projects that are low dollar amounts and that are renewals that aren't necessarily within the purview of the board, but more operationally, tactically sound. But just for notification, and also we need your concurrence. Yeah. We want to make sure that you see these items. So you've got about 8 resolutions that were not provided to the committee. However, they are posted and they are a matter of public record. So although the majority and the rule definitely is that we bring these items to committee when they're above a certain threshold, generally over $100,000, with other items kind of within that soup. Today, we do have an unusual amount that are coming before you that did not have formal presentation. However, they have been discussed with the board and presented and posted for a matter of public record.
Thank you for that reminder. Resolution 2025-54.
Authorizing contract number 2025-53 with UKG Chronos Systems LLC to provide annual SaaS subscription and support renewal in an amount not to exceed $156,369.46. General Fund, Management Information Services Department budget.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Sleesman.
Second, Pachetti.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. 2025-55.
Authorizing contract number 2025-1 with Brinks Incorporated to provide revenue collection and processing services, armored transportation services, in an amount not to exceed $983,075 for the base 3 years, and in amounts not to exceed $345,860 and $354,506 for each of the 2 option years, respectively, for a total contract amount not to exceed $1,683,441 for the 5-year period. General Fund, Revenue Department budget.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mayor Weiss.
Second, Pachetti.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 2025-56.
Authorizing contract number 2024-197 with Trinity Door Systems Incorporated to provide preventive maintenance and repairs of automated pedestrian doors in an amount not to exceed $279,631.38 for a period of 3 years, and in amounts not to exceed $109,950.56 and $122,800.31 for each option year, respectively, for a total 5-year contract amount not to exceed $512,382.25. General Fund, Service Management Department budget.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Sleesman.
Second, Pachetti.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, resolution passes. 2025-57.
Authorizing contract number 2025-070 with M&J Technologies Direct, Inc. for the purchase of replacement laptops, desktops, and thin client units through the Ohio Department of Administrative Services Cooperative Purchasing Program in an amount not to exceed $252,105. RTA Capital Budget, Information Technology Department budget.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mayor Weiss.
Second, Pachetti.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution carries. 2025-58.
Authorizing an increase to contract number 2024-195 with Railworks Track Services Incorporated for Project 66C, Brook Park Yard Tracks improvements in the amount of $261,241.02 for a new contract amount of $2,851,067.02, and reinstating the General Manager Chief Executive Officer's change order signing authority in its entirety. RTA Development Fund, Engineering and Project Development Department budget.
Do you have a motion?
Motion, Pachetti.
Second, Sleesman.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The resolution carries. It's approved. 2025-59.
Authorizing contract number 2025-039 with Integrated Power Services, LLC for the furnishing of traction motor armature rewind services as specified and as required for a period of 2 years in an amount not to exceed $222,768. General Fund, Rail District Department budget.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Sleesman.
Second, Pachetti.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That carries. 2025-60.
Authorizing contract number 2025-072 with the Braun Corporation for the purchase and delivery of two 2025 Chrysler Voyager LX with Braun WAV conversion ADA vans for a total amount not to exceed $134,140, RTA Capital Fund, Fleet Management Department budget.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Moved. Mayor Weiss.
Second, Pachetti.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. 2025-61.
Authorizing contract number 2025-073 with American Bus and Accessories Incorporated for the purchase and delivery of 2 paratransit vehicles as specified for a total contract amount not to exceed $300,416. RTA Development Fund, Fleet Management Department budget.
I'd like to make that motion.
Second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. That's approved. 2025-62.
Authorizing an increase to contract number 2022-121 with Northeast Ohio Trenching Services Incorporated for Project 12DA, bungalow foundations for the trunk line resignaling in the amount of $124,540.43 for a new total contract amount of $471,540.43, and reinstating the General Manager Chief Executive Officer's change order signing authority in its entirety. RTA Development Fund, Engineering and Project Development Department budget.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Sleesman.
Second, Pachetti.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? This carries and is approved. 2025-63.
Authorizing contract number 2025-75 with Computer Sciences Corporation, a wholly owned subsidiary of DXC Technology Company, to provide Assure Claims software licensing, maintenance, and support services for a 5-year period in a total amount not to exceed $343,984. General Fund Management Information Services Department budget.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Mayor Weiss.
Second, Sleesman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This is approved. 2025-64.
Amending budget appropriations for the fiscal year 2025 Capital Improvement Fund to provide for an increase of $72 million.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Sleesman.
Second. Mayor Weiss.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved and carries. 2025-65.
Appropriating the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority's expenditures or outlays for the fiscal year 2026 capital improvement budget.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Mayor Weiss.
Second, Sleesman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. 2025-66.
Authorizing the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority to enter into temporary right of entry agreement for the construction of sewer infrastructure on authority property, Kingsbury Run Consolidation Sewer Project.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Sleesman.
Second. Mayor Weiss.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. 2025-67.
Authorizing the donation of non-revenue vehicle numbers 24601, 33401, 25401, 28408, and 28407 to the Cuyahoga Community College General Automotive Program.
I'll motion to approve that. Do I have a second?
Second, Sleesman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved and carries. That concludes all of the resolutions for today. Thank you so much, Raj. And now, up to the podium, we have the Secretary and Treasurer's report.
Ms. Welch, members of the committee, members of the board, my name is Raj Gautam. I am the Secretary Treasurer for the board and the Deputy General Manager of Finance, here to present the April information with some additional slides from the traditional slides that we actually discussed. So we'll start off reviewing the economic conditions. This is a slide that we've all previously seen. The annual inflation rate, if we all recall, decreased from a high of 9.1% in June 2022 to a low of 2.3% in April 2025. FOMC, or the Federal Open Market Committee, has maintained the interest rate at 4.5%. They are scheduled to meet June 17th and 18th to determine if any further action and interest rates are needed. We shared this slide previously. It is 5 consecutive months. This is a study actually conducted by the University of Michigan with results through May 13th. We have 5 consecutive months where consumer sentiment has fallen. This reflects consensus across all demographic and political affiliations, where the economic conditions are seen to be worsening for personal finances, business conditions, unemployment, and inflation. Expectations for the year-end inflation, according to the surveys conducted, have increased from 6.5% last month to 7.3% this month. Ridership through April 2025. In April 2025, the year-to-date ridership was 0.3% higher above 2024 levels. Looking at the ridership on a year-to-date basis, comparing it to pre-COVID 2019 numbers, we are 2.5 million rides lower, roughly 24%. New slide. Mind you, this is information that has been gleaned from the National Transit Database. This is information for 2020 through 23, which is the latest information that is available to us. The 2024 data will be available sometime in the fourth quarter of 2025, but we wanted to share this information based on prior questions from the board members, et cetera, as to how we relate and compare to our peer agencies. And peer agencies are defined as entities that are roughly our size and have rail operations. So as you can see, among the 12 peer agencies that we've identified, GCRTA had the 4th closest ridership to pre-COVID 2019 levels in fiscal 22 and 23. What that means, what those percentages actually reflect is, we took the ridership data for 2019 pre-COVID, and the 65.7 or 69.7 or roughly 70% represents the level 70% of the pre-COVID ridership. And just a case in point, and I'll repeat myself, that we, in the peer agency group, have the 4th closest ridership, which is a good thing. Passenger fares, April fare revenue, 8.9% below April 2024. This is largely due to collections and timing of few past receipts, et cetera. India alluded to that in the third quarter. We'll see an uptick, and based on the collections, et cetera, it will reflect some different information from time to time. April fare revenue is 1.6% above budget. On a year-to-date basis, and comparison to pre-COVID passenger fares related information, we are lower by $2.5 million, or roughly 20.5%. Similar slide, same information as we had previously presented on the ridership, same peer agency groups. Among the 12 peer agencies, GCRTA had the 3rd closest passenger fare revenue, comparing it to, as a percentage, to pre-COVID 2019 levels in fiscal 22 and 23. Another issue that has been in discussion in various groups, individually in smaller groups and in prior board meetings, is how our fare box recovery ratio compares with the peer agency groups. And once again, this data is through the end of 2023, since 2024 data will not be available until much later in 2025. In fiscal 2019, if you'll notice, Greater Cleveland RTA stood at 15.1%, which was the 4th lowest out of the peer group. Fast forward to fiscal 2023, we are the 3rd highest. Fare box revenue really represents the collections from fares as a percentage of the total operating budget. Our internal ratio, if you all recall, we refer to something called the operating ratio. That number is passenger fares plus other own source revenue amounts. So you'll have investment income, advertising income, naming rights income, et cetera, consolidated. And that's the number that we have alluded to in the past, that the operating ratio should be roughly 25%. This is just the passenger fare portion that we're reporting. Sales and use tax came in late yesterday afternoon. May 2025 receipts were 6.5% higher when compared to May 2024 receipts. On a year-to-date basis, we are 2.9% higher than 2024. 15 out of the 22 categories were positive in May. Online sales were 5.7% higher. Motor vehicles and watercraft 2.4% higher, and regular and statewide sales 0.2% higher. Quick reminder, selected data from the package that you have included in your monthly board package. Long-term debt stands at $22.3 million. As a quick reminder, the principal payments are only made once a year, which will be in December. We have interest payments in June and December. So the long-term debt will stay constant at the $22.3 million number until we make the principal payments in December 2025. The average investment yield on a year-to-date basis stands at 4.06%. Total cash and investments of $365.1 million, of which $339.9 million is in restricted funds, and unrestricted/general fund stands at $25.2 million. With that, I'll take any questions.
Mayor West.
Just a quick one, Raj. The sales and use tax is now it's 2.9. I think 2.9%.
That is correct.
Do you recall what we budgeted for this year?
I think for the entire year, and Kay, you can correct me if I'm wrong, for the entire year, our assumptions were 2.5% higher than 2024 levels.
2.5. Okay. Thank you.
1.8? 1.8. Sorry, I've been corrected. 1.8%.
Was what we budgeted.
That is correct.
Okay.
See, Pachetti, did you have that?
Yeah, just a comment. I wanted to thank you for providing the comparison across peer markets. I think that's really helpful for both ridership and revenue pre-COVID to now. So really appreciated that. And if I could probably offline, I was wondering if in terms of ridership, it's pretty similar across all modes, or if there's differences between ridership coming back on rail as opposed to buses or BRT,
we
for
can
example.
certainly provide that information. We have that.
Any additional questions? Thank you for that presentation.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And now we will have our General Manager's report from GM India Birdsong Terry.
All right, I'm back again. Good morning. I think we're still in the morning, so I'll be fast as I can. I'm going to ask a couple of friends to meet me up here. I will start in with my general manager report, and then we have a couple of special items that we'd like to bring to your attention. So first, I wanted to be able to pay tribute to a former board trustee of the RTA and really just community giant within Greater Cleveland. Alan C. Krillek was a trustee on this board from 2000 to 2006. And if you have seen anywhere within community listservs and emails, you probably have seen his name within the last week or so. He passed on, led a full life in his 80s, and services were held last week in Cleveland Heights. RTA did attend those services. We appreciate his service. I did not know him personally, but have heard of his name in several communities, let alone this one. Served on plenty of boards that we all serve on now, and really just was a leader in our community. So we appreciate him and wish him all of the rest in the world in the next iteration of his spirit. So thank you so much. Also, on a bit of a brighter note, wanted to give you just a heads up. Now, the slide is sparse on purpose. Clearly, I'm having a good time. And it was in this room, we had a town hall. It's an internal meeting, so this is really just an FYI. But I wanted to be able to highlight the 270 participants. That's a huge number for us. We have a semi-annual town hall. It's intended, again, for internal folks, so for the staff. As you know, everybody does not report to this building. So we've got folks that we're dialing in through streaming. This is a very big kudos to our IT team who really came together with administration and said, hey, we can make this work internally. We've been externally as well. We were at AdCom down the street before. Before that, we were in the Cleveland Public Library. We've kind of rotated through the community. So thank you so much for the team that pulled this together. There was a lot of administrative support. There was a lot of facilities support, a lot of technological support to be able to really work the system and have streaming capability throughout all of the districts. So there were a lot of folks that were huddled together. So the number is probably even larger than we think, but there were a lot of folks that were huddled together in conference rooms and lunch rooms and computer screens to be able to really understand what's going on. And what I try to do is give a synopsis of what we've been doing over the last 6 months, very much similar to what we do here. But we also zhuzh it up a little bit. And to everyone's chagrin, I like to not hog the mic too much and have people do fireside chats. And so we actually had a lot of different testimonies by different departments that otherwise may not get the spotlight. So I ask everybody to put on their best Oprah and be able to interview each other in front of their peers. And it really is eye-opening as to what goes on underneath the hood, so to speak, of RTA. So great job, everybody. It really was an interesting and fun endeavor. It is a few hours, so just a heads up on that. Also wanted to just give kudos. Chief Jones is not here today. She is out on knee surgery. We do have a couple of folks from TP representing her, of course, in the room. But this is particularly an honor that she received. And I'll mention, and I'll go into it a little bit, and you'll see why I wanted to make sure that it was highlighted today. The Ohio Committee for Employer Support of Guard and Reserve, which is basically the Patriot Award. Chief Jones, our transit chief of police, was provided that acknowledgement due to her collaborative efforts with support of military forces, in support of the nation, the Department of Defense, the 910th Security Forces, and the United States Air Force Reserve. She has a lot of folks within her team that are paramilitary and reserve folks and have to be able to have flexible schedules in order to really define and continue with those commitments to protect our country, even as though they are transit police officers within RTA. She remains committed to being flexible and working through those schedules to reassign those folks back out into those protective services. And that effort was something that was recognized by the Secretary of Defense. The award is actually supported by the Office of the Secretary of Defense, and that is nothing to sneeze at. She also was nominated for the award by members of her own team. That says a lot. When you are happy enough with your manager that they would nominate you for an award that commends the flexibility that they're giving to you to continue to support the security of our country is tremendous. And so I wanted to make sure that we gave her a round of applause and also said thank you to her virtually. And kudos to Chief Jones. So again, we thank her, and we of course thank the awarder, so to speak, to be able to recognize the efforts that she puts in. So thank you. Also, another good kudos. We've been just racking them up in May, and we're super excited about it in April. You will note that we have one of our transit ambassadors. You see the red jackets here. We have Miss Alicia Miller. Now, Miss Miller was actually minding her own business at Tower City, doing her job. I laugh as I look around the pole and catch Commander Hudson, because he did alert us to this through Bob Fleek, who was our PIO, so everything's on the up and up. And you will see Skirtix Picks. If you've ever seen that kind of article that's in Cleveland Magazine, the director actually goes around and finds the highlighted best practices, if you want to call it, for really good programs that are happening throughout Greater Cleveland. And Ms. Miller was approached through Cleveland Magazine to be able to explain her commitment to public transit and how we're just really being able to connect with the community. And she was one of the highlighted programs. So we appreciate Ms. Miller and all of the work she's doing, and it really showed the commitment and dedication of that program. If you recall, this is a newer program. It's been around for about 2 years now, but we went through hell and high water to be able to bring that to the community, and we appreciate the board and wanted to make sure that you understand that folks are seeing the good work these folks are doing, and we appreciate Ms. Miller along with the entire Transit Ambassador and CIS team through Transit Police. So congratulations on that. Also, we did have a little bit of international travel. This was approved in the 2024 budget, so we always like to make that moniker there as we start to tighten our belt financially. We had 3 individuals who should all be in the room here, if not the majority of, who did travel on behalf of RTA to Toronto, Canada, to represent the work that's going on to advance mobility. WTS, formerly known as the Women Transportation Seminar, is really talking about the forward movement of mobility as it pertains to females in the industry, but also just making sure that we can collaborate, whether it's you're talking about manufacturing, you're talking about mobility, you're talking about paratransit, or talking about engineering services. There's a lot of individuals that kind of converge in this annual conference, and we did have some panelists as well as featured speakers. I wanted to make sure that we highlighted these 3 women because they are being dynamos in their area. So we've got Teresa Moody, our Director of Power and Way. Teresa, stand up. We've also got Mary Beth Feek. I don't know if she's in the room today. Thank you. Director of Programming and Planning. And we also have Natoya Walker-Minor, who is our Deputy for External Affairs. And I will say this, I want to specifically highlight the work that they're doing. Mary Beth has been a steward of our participation in WTS for a very long time, and I appreciate her being able to really stay with this, the commitment to making sure that we have our voice heard in an international advocacy organization like WTS is important. Usually it's the planners and the engineers you see in WTS, but you see a lot of other areas of the business that are really starting to get a foothold, and Mary Beth is a big part of that push within RTA, so we appreciate you, Mary Beth. Teresa Moody has had a lot of conversations. I want to say, Teresa, we were at the award ceremony through Railway Age in Chicago for Cindy Grinwald. Cindy is a supervisor in Power and Way. I mention this because Power and Way is extremely male-dominated. To be able to have female employees and management that's really running that for us is amazing. I can say I have not met a director of Power and Way in my full career who is female before Teresa. So being able to kind of elevate that group and really having a great camaraderie within that team. They have a newsletter which really is rivaling, I think, the one that we produce for the agency. They're doing a great job, and she got asked to attend this conference at another one, so you can see the chain of events. Natoya is also doing some amazing work to make sure that she's including the voice of the community in those conversations, and External Affairs is continually supporting these efforts. So thank you, ladies. We appreciate you. Also, wanted to be able to circle back. I mentioned at the beginning of my talk today that we were going to give you an update on some of the testimony that we've been providing. So some of the customers, I think, asked, how can you support in making sure that paratransit and other services remain important to the federal government and also to the state and local? Well, this is a really good example. So Dr. Flonce Caver, who's to my left here, our Deputy for Operations, and then Ron Darden, who's a commander in Transit Police. He's in training today, so unavailable to be here. Traveled to Columbus. I asked them to specifically go for a reason. We all are becoming very great speakers, and the 2 of them are just naturally good speakers, but wanted to make sure that we gave testimony in opposition to legislation that is on the books right now for consideration through the delegation that really severely hampers the mobility of students through paratransit. It is being proposed by Dayton, Ohio, that's Montgomery County. I know that area pretty well, as do a lot of our colleagues, and they have a different dynamic when it comes through your downtown central hubs. So it's targeting the downtown hub concept. We really don't have a downtown hub. We're a little further out. We have a lot of things going on in the nucleus of downtown, but the making it impossible for students to transfer at that location or others really puts a limited mobility on our student population of ridership. We understand that safety is the main concern behind this legislation, but it is a one-size-fits-all approach that does not fit in Cleveland. So we wanted to make sure that we, along with others, testified in person to make sure they can hear us, and also see the commitment that we have. Commander Darden actually manages a biweekly meeting with CMSD along with other police forces to make sure that we keep our issues to a minimum with students and really handle it in a way that explains our true value to the community, and it's been working really well. So we testified, Akron testified along with Cincinnati in person. And I want to say this was the agricultural committee, so it's a little tough to explain transportation at an agricultural committee. You are up against a lot of other things. And then there were somewhere between 85 and 100 testimonies that were provided that day. Doc, I don't know if I'm missing anything. Okay, so we do appreciate these two gentlemen for advising on that. We have met with legislators as well as senators to explain our stance. They seem to understand, so hopefully we'll have their support in that effort. And when this does come up again, my plan is for myself as well as our deputy chief or chief, whoever is available, to make the second round. So we're going to ramp it up when necessary. Any questions from the board on that? Okay, and this is the normal cadence, so we do show up when we need to. Just as information, we do provide 1.5 million trips a year for the student population on average, with a UPass program also for CMSD. The yellow bus dependency that would come out of this legislation is virtually impossible for CMSD, so we want to make sure that we can continue to support them in the mobility of students in Greater Cleveland. Also, giving you a quick update, I was able to serve, had the honor to serve on the panel of Creating Change to Empower Women. This was held at the Union Club of Cleveland. We had a table of really just managers within the trenches here at RTA to support me in this effort. It was a conversation with a panel of our peers, or of my peers. Linda Uvegas, who is the moderator, is the CEO for the City Mission. They hosted the event and asked RTA to be a part of it. Sean Medina, who's a partner at Hahn, Lozer & Parks, which is a legal firm, really had a great grasp on how to continue in the fight for making sure that you have a diverse clientele and serving them in the best way possible, inclusive of women. And then Dr. Jacqueline Bailey was dynamic. To be able to think about how Cleveland Clinic really embraces the voice of the customer, especially in the female conversation, as far as how females are treated in the office, the doctor's office, as well as on the surgery table. So it was a great opportunity to be able to insert public transit into that conversation. Also, we had a great lob from our former board member, Karen Moss. She was a colleague of another board member on the U.S. Open World program. That communication led to an invitation for us to host the Armenian delegation. It was a fantastic kind of meet and greet, if you want to call it that, and really learning about their transportation system, which is pretty robust within Armenia, but their version of council folks came to be able to our building here and really learned about our system. We talked about everything transit, including paratransit, which they were very impressed by the way. And then also talking about rail, same thing, talked about big bus and also transit-oriented development as it is part of our ongoing conversation with the city of Cleveland, as well as Shaker Heights. I know that they did meet with, I believe, Mayor, your staff, and then had a great conversation. I don't know if you had any additional comments on that, but we had a great time hosting them here.
Yeah, we've done this a couple times in Shaker, and it's always a pleasure to talk to people from outside our realm, our country, and see how others do their job. So it was a great conversation. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Just goes to show the power and the importance of board communication. Okay, so this is the fun part as well. Wanted to just give a quick shout out. I believe we have Muriel. There we go, Muriel, if you could stand up. Muriel Bowen is one of our planners in the Planning and Development Department. You will see her in a moment. She is also an avid bike rider and cyclist. And we also have plenty of those same yoke within this room and also on the board. But Deidre McPherson, who unfortunately is in jury duty, but serving our nation, is also an avid cyclist, and the two of them teamed up along with our marketing department. Kadrian Hinton, I'm not sure if she's in here. Sorry, these polls are something else. Thank you, Kadrian. Kadrian is, we'll call her the executive producer of this particular video. And Kadrian's been with us about how long? Okay, Muriel, how long you been with us? Okay, I asked that on purpose. I always know the answer. To make sure that you can kind of highlight the talent of some of the newer employees that we have. We have great seasoned employees as well, but this talent is really being brought out on purpose to make sure that we can have innovative and new ways to be able to celebrate our community work. So Bike to Work Day was May 16th on Friday. If you did that, fantastic. We wanted to also have a safety video so that folks understood how to utilize the bike racks. Sometimes they are used and abused on our system, so we wanted to make sure that folks really had an idea of how to do that safely. So I'm going to try to play the video here for you.
GCRTA connects you to your city, and combining your bike with the bus is a great way to travel. Most GCRTA buses have front-mounted bike racks for 2 to 3 bikes, except the Helpline, which has a designated bike storage area in the rear of the coach. Electric bikes are welcome. If they don't fit on the rack, you can bring them inside if they are fully electric, carry no fuel, can be folded, and don't block the aisle. To use the rack, make sure your bike meets the requirements. This applies to standard and electric bikes. The bike's wheelbase should be a maximum of 48 inches. The tires a maximum of 3.2 inches wide, and the bike's weight should not exceed 75 pounds. When loading, always approach the bus from the curb. Wait for it to come to a complete stop and signal the driver. Remove any loose items from your bike, then lift it into the rack, fitting the wheels into the designated slots. Secure the bike with the provided support arm. After loading, hop on the bus and get a bike ticket from the bus operator. Enjoy your ride, and for more information, visit riderta.com.
Great job to both ladies. Thank you so much. And I must say, they make it look so cool. They make it look so cool. The swag in that video is just amazing. So thank you again for your work on that, ladies. With that, I will pause for any questions, but we do have one more, and I promise that's it, update on surveys, and this is why I have my friends with me. Yes.
I just wanted to make a quick comment beyond innovation. I was so happy to see this particular promo video, and what a great way to launch it during Bike to Work Day. But I have to tell you, I think sometime in January, I was scrolling to TikTok, because I'm a millennial and I work in social media. Don't judge me. But there was a transit agency, and I couldn't remember if it was DC or someone else, but this was just a regular rider who was getting on the bus, and it was like, I'm going to show you how to bike your rack or get your bike on the rack. And I can't tell you how many, it was millions of views. And the comments underneath that was, I am so scared to ride my bike and get on because I do not know how to essentially put the bike on the rack. Millions of people who were in the comments saying this. And so I just want to say it doesn't only speak to the innovative part, but I just also want to say kudos to the team, because I think it also speaks to how we are tapping into the relevancy of the work that we do, that these conversations are existing beyond sometimes the surveys and inside of these rooms, but there are other people who have questions about something as simple as how do I get my bike on the rack? And that having something like this is as important in how we build our reputation as any of the other things that we do. And so I just want to say thank you for that video tutorial. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. Love it.
Thank you. We appreciate that. All right, we're going to go into our last presentation of the day, which is the 2025 employee survey results. Before we launch into that, I'm going to ask Nick to just give one more good news story about two recent graduations that we had that happened on Friday evening. So we didn't have time to get all of the slides together for you, but we will present that later in June. But it speaks to the value of checking with the internal customer. And then from there, I'm just going to go ahead and punt it over to George and Maria, coming from our HR and training departments, to really give you the detail of the survey itself.
Thank you. Yeah, good morning, Vice Chair Welch, members of the board. Again, I'm Nick Bigger, Senior Director of Customer Experience and Performance Management. And so just a quick highlight from last week, good success story. We did hold 2 graduation ceremonies for a positive impact program. So we honored and celebrated approximately 50 former mentees, so 50 new operators who made it through their first year with the partnership of their mentor. We held it in this room, so we had one on Monday morning, one on Friday evening to try to accommodate everybody's schedules, and it was great. And just to say, you know, since we launched this program formally in August of 2022, it's the spirit of partnership and the spirit of collaboration is what makes it successful. So, you know, partnership between RTA and the union, partnership between all 4 districts working together, partnership between our tenured operators and our new operators. It's a great success story for us. We continue to get national acclaim. So the ATU International actually sent a delegate here to celebrate with us in the graduation ceremony. So just wanted to give you a brief update on that. Thank you. And Maria and George.
All right. Good morning, Vice Chair Welch, Mrs. Birdsong-Terry, members of the board. My name is Maria Shurik. I'm the Manager of Employee Development, and I'm happy to present the 2025 employee survey results. So this survey was administered for the second time now, second year in a row, administered by the ETC Institute. Starting in December, ETC sent each employee an email with a unique link and then reminded them multiple times if that link was not utilized. And then to get back in front of folks again, from January 3rd through 10th, they were on site and visited our districts at all hours in various locations, busy locations, both in the districts and on the street, and in anticipation of getting as many results or responses as we could, and then close the survey at the end of January. So the results were that 1,002 employees completed the survey. Out of the base that we were working from was 2,276, so about 44%. And just as a matter of comparison, about 47% completed last year. So we had about the same number of responses from a slightly larger base. And 84% of employees report job satisfaction in their current role. And 84% would also recommend employment at GCRTA to their family and friends. That was similar to 2024 results as well. In addition to the Likert scale rating questions, we had 4 open-ended questions that generated 2,154 written responses. This is where we were very grateful to have a vendor to help us sort through the responses. And so just in summary, the question of what people like least about working for GCRTA in order came through these 3 categories of communication and management, work schedules, balance and workload, and compensation. What people like best about working for GCRTA, the most common response was in relation to pay and benefits, followed by appreciation for coworkers, and third was the community impact. People really understand that they're a part of a public service and appreciate being a part of that impact. And I'm happy to take any questions. Any questions?
Well, I'm just curious, how many questions, how long was the survey?
That's a great question. The total number of questions in the survey, I want to say we had about 30 or so rating questions and then the 4 open-ended questions. And in those categories that, as the results were communicated in a number of those categories.
Anything surprise you in the open-ended questions?
Ooh, surprising. Well, as you saw, there was a response of, for some people, what they like least is what others like the best. And so we know that that's going to be individual based on the role that someone is in or their perspective. I was really pleased to see the community impact result come through as one of the things that people like best, that people aren't just here for the pay, but that they see that this is a public service. Many of us have endeavored to have a career in public service. And so it's good to see that they have that match here at RTA.
Okay. Does that conclude the questions? Thank you for that presentation. Thank you. Thanks so much. And thank you for all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I don't have a president's report. Is there any old business? New business? No? Okay. Well, we are going to go into an executive session. We are going to conclude the meeting after executive session. So if you're a member of the public and don't feel like sticking around, you are welcome to leave. I'm going to enter into adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn the Board of Trustees meeting? And go into executive to enable the board to conference with GCRTA attorneys for information gathering, fact finding, and to receive legal advice.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed? Oh, roll call, please, for the.
Excuse me. Lauren Welch, Vice Chair.
Yes.
Anastasia Elder. Mayor Gallo.
Yes.
Mayor Kumar. Mr. Love. Reverend Lucas. Ms. McPherson. Ms. Pachetti.
Yes, and you might want to call Reverend Lucas again.
Mr. Sleesman.
Yes.
And Mayor Weiss.
Yes.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there individuals?
Yep. Just for information, if we could have, we will go to the caucus room back here, and if I could have Janet Burney and Raj Gotham, and then Avis just remain on standby. Thank you.
Thank you all. with Reverend Lucas. Okay, so I'm going to motion to adjourn the executive session to enable the board to conference with GCRTA attorneys for information gathering, fact-finding, and receive legal advice. Adjourn the executive session.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We need a roll call.
We have to do.
Oh, roll call. Oh, right. May I have a roll call for adjourning the executive session to enable the board to conference with GCRTA attorneys?
Ms. Welch, Vice Chair?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Elder, Mayor Gallo?
Yes.
Mayor Kumar, Mr. Love, Reverend Lucas?
Yeah.
Ms. McPherson, Ms. Pachetti?
Here.
Mr. Sleesman?
Yes.
Mayor Weiss?
Yes.
And then now I have to adjourn the meeting. I just want to say that for the record, that the board meeting is scheduled next time for June 17th, 2025 in this boardroom for the Authority, McBride Building, 1240 West 6th Street, Cleveland, Ohio. You can visit all RTA information at riderta.com/board by clicking the meeting date. The public is welcome to attend. Do I have a motion to adjourn the RTA board meeting?
So moved. Mayor Rice.
Second, Pachetti.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Do we need a roll call for that? No. No, okay. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.